Most people think a battery just stores energy during the day and you can use it at night. That's really only about half the story. Hi everyone, Dan and Matt here from GI Energy. Today we're talking about unlocking your hidden battery savings. Basically using your battery correctly, or if you haven't already purchased one, making sure it's designed correctly so that you get all of these benefits. We did a video a little while ago, not too dissimilar to this, where we talked a lot about your battery and how much money you were saving over a year, and the difference basically as to whether you were just using it as a normal charge and discharge versus how you were using it. And it was more than double, I think, wasn't it, from memory?
It's great. I actually checked the other day, so I thought you might ask. And it was just over 18 months, about 19-month period.
Okay.
I'd saved an additional $2,000. It just ticked over $2,000. I think it's about $2,050 now, just from optimizing it in this way.
Yeah, and also that doesn't factor in all of it either, does it? Some of it's hard to quantify, isn't it? So that's $2,000 of quantifiable savings.
Yes.
Really, it's probably a lot more than that.
That's just over and above with the tweaks I've made.
Yes.
So just your standard self-consumption.
Yeah.
I reckon it's about $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
So in that same window. Plus that. So
yeah.
So probably close to about $6,500 in 18 months.
Yeah.
Pretty good, eh?
I mean, and for context, how big is your battery?
11 kilowatt hours.
11 kilowatt hours.
Yeah, it's small by today's standard.
By today's standards, but the same by average when you installed it, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. So these will make a big difference whether you've already got one installed or whether you're thinking about installing one. If you haven't installed one already, it's more important, isn't it? Because you need to make sure it's designed correctly.
Yeah.
So I guess just to recap, the standard way is you have a solar system installed or you're installing one. During the day, you're producing more solar energy than you need in the home or business. What usually happens without a battery is it gets exported back into the grid. You're issued with a feed-in credit, but that feed-in credit is very low compared to what you're charged. So you might get 4 cents for all your excess energy going back to the grid during the day. Then at night time, when you're using things again, you'll be charging anything from sort of 30 up to about 50 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on where you are. So the key of the battery there is to store the energy rather than sell it back, and then you get monetary value that way. But there is more to it than that. So other ways to do that, there's heaps. I guess we'll start with, actually let's start with the way that you're doing it, because this feeds into the proposed free window that's coming up as well.
Yeah, true.
So you're using the OVO tariff at the moment.
Yeah, so there's a couple of retailers right now that offer a free power window for 3 or 4 hours each day in the middle of the day, with the goal to soak up excess solar that's in the network, that obviously is, allowing a lot of people to take that benefit, and that is something that's going to be rolled out in quite a few areas across the board. So the reason I do that with mine is it just means regardless if my solar is generating a ton of power on a nice sunny day, it's pouring with rain, it's winter, any other variable there, my battery can fill up from the grid every single day of the year for completely free without doing anything other than changing a few settings for 30 seconds. And if that window changes, you just reset the preferences again. So those free power windows have been a real benefit to so many clients of ours for quite a while now. And obviously given this subsidy, more and more have been using this style. And that'll depend on the amount of solar you have, where you are, a bunch of other variables. But at the very least, it just means that battery's full every day. And you don't need to do anything.
Which on a given day could be worth $3, $4 potentially with your battery. With a larger battery, a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So it's significant even for an 11 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah.
You start talking 30, 40, 50 kilowatt hour batteries. Obviously, you can add that up pretty quickly. The other option is a VPP. So in the previous video you talked about that tariff. There's OVO and Glowbird are the two most popular ones. There are others. And that is coming to Southeast Queensland, New South Wales and South Australia as a government incentivised program as well. So every retailer midway through 2026 will have to offer that. But a VPP is different. So a VPP, for those who don't know, is a virtual power plant. A virtual power plant is a group of battery owners that basically are trading energy with the grid to different extents depending on the VPP and then being incentivised financially. The one I use, the most popular one by a long way, is Amber. And the way that works is you can basically charge your battery during the day with grid power for very little. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 4 cents. On a very bad day for weather, it can be 8 cents. But at night time, then obviously you can then sell it back for higher prices as well. So it's dynamically controlled pricing depending on what the wholesale rate is doing. So your feed-in tariff can also be 10, 20, 30, 40 cents, even into the dollars per kilowatt hour on rare occasions. So that's another massive one. But it's crucial for both of these, more so for the VPP, that you have the correctly designed battery and inverter.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, the inverter capacity is something we bang on about all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, the battery needs to be compatible, but to have that inverter sized right is the bottleneck. How much power you can get in and out of the battery.
Yeah.
And obviously, with both options there, tariff windows or VPP, you want to get as much in when it's free or very low, and as much out on the VPP side when the price is high. So it suits certain scenarios, but the key really is just knowing that your battery has that capability and it's been sized right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And for the VPP, mine's probably only just big enough, just as an example.
Yeah.
Mine's a 27 kilowatt hour battery. I'm using probably 40 to 70 kilowatt hours a day though, depending on the day.
Yeah.
And that 27 kilowatt hour battery, I'd love to have gone bigger for other reasons. I won't get into this video. That was the maximum I could do at the time. But I could have gone bigger and it would have been a lot better for me. So yeah, speaking to someone and get it designed correctly is definitely the right way to do it before you purchase. The next one was using your energy at the correct times during the day.
Yeah.
So that sounds really simple, but that was another one that we sort of did a little bit of maths on, and it saves a fortune, doesn't it, if you do it correctly?
Yeah, especially when you have a battery, because then you can preserve the battery for everything else that you need.
That's actually an important point. So a lot of people, when they install a battery, just think, I can do whatever I want now all the time. And you kind of can, because you've got your own little power station there. But if you want to maximize your benefit without just going huge on your battery for no reason, then it helps. Yeah,
for sure. So depending on the appliances and your habits, a lot of variables there, but ultimately if you can automate certain things in the home with a timer, so a hot water system, pool filter, washing machine, dryer, dishwasher, aircon with like the My Air or app control as well. Any of those things that you can get to run off solar first and not from the battery just means that if you're then using your aircon all night or whatever else, your battery takes care of that part and the solar's already done its job, because once your battery's full in the middle of the day, the solar excess that you're exporting to the grid is worth so little. Or if you're on a VPP, potentially it's being clipped.
It's worth nothing
or maybe clipped in certain areas anyway moving forward. So the solar's still integral to the system. And if you can automate those things, because a hot water system and a pool filter could use 10 to 15 kilowatt hours just on their own in the day. That might be a third or a quarter of your solar generation. So if you can automate that and that doesn't come from the battery, that battery is then used for everything else that you need it to be.
Later at night, when it's more expensive to buy energy.
Because if you empty that battery at 8 p.m, you're still potentially paying a high peak rate. So preserve it and use everything else that you can in the day.
And you can do it with a timer, or you can do it with some kind of relay system where you can divert spare energy into certain appliances, which is the more kind of intelligent way of doing it. That probably leads us into the next subject of EVs, electric vehicles. So you can also set up your solar energy to charge your car with excess solar. So again, if you're looking at dollars, and if you want to do a comparison between buying fuel, buying electricity, or buying nothing, or paying nothing for the electricity to charge your car, this can save you thousands a year. Purely just by using excess solar energy that would normally go back to the grid, as you say, for nothing, to charge your vehicle. Or at the very least, using the energy at the correct times of day, so it's much more affordable to charge the EV, rather than just coming home at night, plugging it in, having no automation, being charged extreme peak rates to charge a car that could be done for free at other times. Massive. Or to follow that on there, if you plug your EV in when you get home at 6 p.m. and it drains the battery as well, and that may not necessarily be possible for everyone to utilise in the day. But there's a lot of ways that you can do it, and with one or two products now, you can set the preference to say, charge my EV from excess solar. Don't discharge the battery to the EV. Unless you override it. So you can set everything to say, okay, charge my battery first, then the car, do this. So with the right system design and a wall charger that matches the battery branded inverter, everything's in the same
your solar that you're generating, preserving your battery, and then potentially even accessing that time window or a VPP as well.
Yes, yeah.
So all those things can link in there, and that's really where you'd make a massive difference.
Massive.
And if you even, and then push it to the fuel, yeah, you know, it's almost difficult to comprehend how much that would be, I suppose.
It's huge. It's not just a few $100s here or there. It's for most people that do a bit of driving, it can be $5,000 a year even.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a big difference. The next thing was the demand charge, which is again just feeds back into everything we were saying here. The last thing I was going to add there with the electric vehicles, you said obviously this isn't that easy for everyone to do during the day because people are out in their cars. That's a very fair point.
Yeah.
But what you can also do is with a VPP, like Amber, where it's dynamically priced, energy is cheap overnight too.
Yeah.
So it's not as cheap. It's not zero like it is during the day sometimes, but it's a lot lower than it is during peak times. So again, comparatively, plug your car in at peak times where your battery's being depleted and the energy is really valuable versus just waiting and having it come on at 1 a.m. Massive difference again there. So sorry to digress, but I just wanted to get that in there before we moved on from EVs. But the demand charge is something that kind of naturally takes care of itself to a certain extent with a battery, but still, I guess, a hidden saving there because most people don't consider it.
No, I think that'll change obviously with different tariffs moving forward as well. Yep. But ultimately, if the battery's sized correctly to your needs with a bit of breathing space, don't just empty the battery quickly with misuse and then still pay that demand charge in the evening.
Yeah, exactly.
There may be other times of year or times of day that these charges get implemented as well to the tariff structure, because it's a capacity charge, so the amount of power that you draw at a certain time, not what you take over an hour or 24 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, just being aware of how that works is really important, and especially when you're looking at a new system now, because the right sized inverter will play into that. If you've only got a small inverter, 5 kilowatts, big battery, and you draw 10, or your needs are 10, that extra 5 is still coming from the grid. And that will obviously fall in that demand window.
Yes.
So a bigger inverter will help to alleviate that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Backup power is another one. This is more difficult to quantify from a financial perspective, but for me it still falls into the overall benefit really clearly. So it might not be $1 saving unless you say, okay, my fridge is still running and the power's gone out. I'm not going to lose my items in the fridge, or you're going to lose productivity through lack of Wi-Fi. But backup power offers more value than that in the sense that, for me personally, we do lose power every now and again. And when we do, I have my essential load, so I still have ceiling fans, Wi-Fi, televisions, mobile phone chargers. And with 2 little kids in the house, that is an absolute lifesaver, even for the ceiling fans. In the middle of summer, just to keep them cool. Obviously, Wi-Fi for Netflix is handy. So the backup power is more difficult to quantify from a monetary perspective, but a huge benefit of a battery that can easily be done incorrectly. So that comes back down to, again, designing that system properly.
I think it's just getting the right information about what you want backed up, and if the system that you're looking at can obviously cover that. Yeah. Because a lot of them don't, and obviously you may not figure that out until the time comes 6 months later. So yeah, getting the right information from the right people.
I think last point that we wanted to cover was why is everyone not doing this? Because it does make such a big difference. And we spoke about this, and generally speaking, if you look at customers from every solar company in Australia, probably very few are doing this. And that comes back down to the consultation period with the retailer who they're talking to, the installer that they're talking to. So something that we talk about in every video is make sure you're choosing the correct company to install your solar for you, especially with a battery, because there's much more to it than in terms of getting the design correct. Products are secondary to that. So yes, there's lots of different technical capabilities with products that have to be considered, but almost anyone can install almost anything. So finding the correct company to do that design for you is so important here, so that you not only have access to these, but you understand how to use them.
Yeah, and I guess that will really play into the experience you have with that system moving forward. And there's obviously been a mad rush with the subsidy for a little while now, and a lot of extra people to the industry, products to the industry, and a lot of pretty clever marketing around very large batteries that may not necessarily provide the outcome you're seeking as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, asking the right questions, and it might not everyone knows those questions to ask, but the right company will at least cover off as many of those points as they can, because they want to make sure that they're providing the right system and reducing that liability long term. Because you don't want to put in a system that someone's expecting backup power in a rural area or an area that loses power frequently that isn't going to do that. So
nightmare.
it's you're building a mini power station for your home, and you're paying good money regardless of what you get in there. So it's definitely worth asking a few more questions before just jumping into something.
100%. Get it right once, then you only have to install it once. I think we've covered pretty much everything we wanted to there. As always, if you've got any questions, please do hit us up in the comments. We try our best to answer everybody's questions. If you are looking at solar and or battery for your home or business, we'd love to hear from you, so please do get in touch. And if not, hopefully you've got some value from this video, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.